Hey, welcome to my Impractical Thoughts. This is a show about roller coasters, and today I want to talk about Georgia's soon-to-be not-so-hidden gem of a roller coaster, Hurricane, at Fun Spot Atlanta. My name is Christopher, and you can find me on Instagram at ImpracticallyChristopher, because I am a huge fan of the show Impractical Jokers, if you couldn't tell. And in addition to that page, I also co-founded the Georgia Coaster Connection with my friend Sean, who you can also find on Instagram and YouTube at Dr. Coaster. And if you've not checked out one of Sean's updates on Air Force One, again, Dr. Coaster on YouTube, he's got over 30 right now on his channel. Check him out if you've been wanting to follow along with the progress of Georgia's newest roller coaster. He does a great job tracking the developments, and he's got some other videos as well that I think you'll enjoy checking out. But here's the thing. When Air Force One opens, speaking of which, everyone is going to know about and hopefully love this small but very mighty coaster that used to be called Screaming Eagle up until a few months ago. And Hurricane has become one of my favorite coasters, and it currently is my 9th most ridden roller coaster, and I'm only 6 rides away from it actually being the 5th most ridden roller coaster. So I think I can accomplish that in the next couple of weeks. But Hurricane, just to give you a little bit of history, it started out as Wildcat in 2002, and it operated, if you can believe this, all the way out in Nevada at a park called Wild Island, which is a family fun center replete with a water park as well, all the way out in Nevada, or Nevada. I'm not sure how you're supposed to actually say it. But in 2007, it moved to Fun Spot Atlanta, where it was then known, or Fun Spot Atlanta rather, was known as Dixieland. And then Dixieland would later become Fun Junction until 2017 when Fun Spot America purchased it. And of course, Fun Spot, best known for their 2 parks in the Orlando, Florida region. And in 2018, Fun Junction officially became Fun Spot Atlanta. So a few stats about Hurricane. It's an E&F high miler, and it's 20 years old now. I don't believe it was anywhere else before Wild Island in Nevada. So if someone else happens to know of its history prior to that, let me know. But as far as I know, it's 20 years old this year in 2022. So it's an E&F high miler, stands 38 feet tall, has a max speed of 35 miles an hour, and it's got about 900 feet of track. And one of the first things that I love about Hurricane is that it's blessed with what I call the Space Mountain effect, which is that the stats are nothing impressive on paper, but the ride experience is amazing for what it is. And another thing that I love, but I know most assuredly will not be able to enjoy for much longer, is that this coaster almost never has a line. With the contingency that I typically visit the park early in the day, and I'm sure that has a lot to do with it, but I can safely say that I've never waited at all for this coaster, and you're just missing out. That's all I gotta say. If you visited Fun Spot Atlanta and you did not ride Hurricane, and you're a coaster enthusiast, which I don't know why that would be the case, but if so, you're totally missing out. But once Air Force One opens, I'm confident that Hurricane's gonna get a line. And usually when I'm at the park, after I'm done getting Air Force One footage and pictures, video, that sort of thing, then I just go back and forth, riding Hurricane and Scream and Swing over and over and over again. But the thing that I love the most about Hurricane is the airtime. Holy smokes. This high miler delivers multiple moments of airtime. And now all of my rides have mostly been back row, and that's where most of my experience comes from. But the places that you get tremendous airtime are the first drop, the second drop after the turnaround, and then the strongest moments come towards the end. There's a double down, which provides the second most powerful airtime moment, and the most lethal ejector moment comes in the form of the final airtime hill right before the turnaround into the brakes. I can't even begin to tell you how powerful that last jolt of airtime is. And to me, that makes the ride, especially when you factor that in with the double down that comes right before it. And I know Air Force One is going to have some wild airtime, and it's positioned to become an instant classic. But Hurricane and Air Force One together will be a great 1-2 punch for the Georgia area. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that the Hurricane here at Fun Spot Atlanta, in my opinion, is better than the Hurricane at Fun Spot in Kissimmee, which is also an E&F high miler. And the Florida version actually has 400 feet more of track and is about 17 feet taller. And yet, I prefer the smaller version here in Georgia. But to be fair, it's been about 3 years since I've been on the Florida version, so I definitely need to get back out there and check it out. So Hurricane, Fun Spot Atlanta, I'm telling you, get down here and ride it. And it's gonna be a hidden gem that everyone is gonna know about here soon, especially once Air Force One opens. And if you've been here and you've already been on Hurricane, let me know in the comments what you think about it. Is it as great as I'm making it out to be? Or maybe you might think I'm crazy. But either way, jump in the comments, let me know what you think about Hurricane. Now, earlier, I would say about a week ago, I asked my friends on Instagram for any questions that they might have about Hurricane at Fun Spot Atlanta, and got a few of them in, so let's get to them. At CLT Coasters wants to know, Josh, hope you're doing well, wants to know front or back, and the easy answer for me is back. I don't remember my front row ride very well, and I think I got another ride in the middle once, but I'm telling you, back row is the way to go all day, every day. That pop of ejector on that last airtime hill is just something else. It's completely breathtaking. So that's my recommendation, back row. Next up, the large Lebowski wants to know, hope you're doing well, how did Fun Spot come to buy the park? So I did a little bit of research on this because I actually wasn't too sure about some of the details. And so I dug up an article from Attractions Magazine back in 2017, which is when Fun Spot purchased Fun Junction. And John Airy Jr., the CEO of Fun Spot, was quoted as saying, "We are excited to be expanding our brand outside the state of Florida. Atlanta and Fayetteville has a lot of exciting opportunities that we plan to capitalize on." And then later on in the article, it says that Airy Jr. hinted at a new roller coaster or other major ride in the future. And of course, now I think we all know what he was hinting at even as far back as 5 years ago, which it's amazing to look back and see that. And then David Hummer, who was a Fun Spot spokesperson in an article in the Orlando Sentinel, I've got Atlanta on the brain, he said that it is a great opportunity. The park has 95 acres of land and buildable property and gives us a blank canvas to really master plan and build as we want. And the theme that I gather from those articles is that simply the amazing growth potential of Fayetteville and the piece of land that Fun Spot sits on was just too good of an opportunity to pass up. And another thing that people who don't live in Georgia may not realize is that Georgia, and Fayetteville in particular, is a huge hub for the film industry. It's home to Trilith Studios, which is the largest film and TV studio outside of California, and it's produced several blockbuster movies like The Avengers, Black Panther, and it currently tapes the new version of Family Feud, which, as I say that out loud, I realize how crazy that is when I say the new version of Family Feud, because this version of Family Feud that's on the air today with Steve Harvey actually premiered back in 1999, and it's gone through a ton of hosts. Louis Anderson, Richard Karn from Home Improvement, John O'Hurley from Seinfeld, and Steve Harvey, who's been doing it, I want to say, since 2010. But a bit of a sidebar for a second. You know, I'm a child of the 80s, and so when I was growing up, game shows were all the rage. And so, Family Feud, I remember originally being hosted by Richard Dawson, and then it came back 3 years later and was hosted by Ray Combs, who actually was from Fairfield, Ohio, which is not too far from where I was born. And then Ray Combs, his version stopped in 94. Actually, no, the version itself didn't stop in 94. He left in 94. Richard Dawson came back. That lasted until 95. And then Louis Anderson rebooted it in 99. So yeah, this version of Family Feud has actually been on the air now for 23 years, which is wild to think about. And Steve Harvey has done an amazing job with the show. And it's filmed right here in Fayetteville, Georgia. So that's how this all relates back to the original topic. So yeah, that's why they chose Fayetteville, amongst other reasons, but it's primarily the tremendous growth potential. And then finally, the Atlanta Enthusiast and Thrill Quirk both asked similar questions, and I appreciate you all sending them in. I'm going to group them together. The Atlanta Enthusiast wants to know, are they going to bring back the second train? And Thrill Quirk wants to know, how do you think, or excuse me, let me try that again. What do you think? I'm botching this question. I'm going to try it one more time here. This will be fun trying to decide how to do the graphic. Thrill Quirk wants to know, do you think as the park gets more crowded, they'll consider adding a second train? Wow, that took way too much effort to read that question. So one thing that I'm not sure of, and maybe someone who knows better can jump in the comments here and let me know, but there's a makeshift storage area that's near the entrance to the Samson go-kart track. And I've seen what looks to be pieces of the old red, yellow, and green train that used to run when it was Screamin' Eagle. And I could be totally off and it's maybe something else, but that's what it looks like to me. So I don't know if the park plans to bring back that train, to be honest. But to get the Thrill Quirk's question about, do I think they'll add a second train? No, I don't think the park's going to add a second train anytime soon. And I think that's because of the relatively short ride cycle. And because of that, I think they can get by with one train for a while. Now, if demand becomes outrageous and you start seeing 30-minute waits on a routine basis, then yes, at that point, I do think they'll consider adding a second train. But I really don't think that's going to be for a while. So I think even after Air Force One opens, Hurricane will continue to run with the one train. But honestly, it hasn't been an issue, and I don't see it becoming an issue for quite a while. So thank you all for sending in your questions. I really appreciate it. And there you go. Those are my impractical thoughts on Hurricane at Fun Spot Atlanta. It's a hidden gem that just does not get talked about as much now, but I think it will be as soon as Air Force One opens, and it's going to become a favorite for those who get a chance to ride it. And by the way, before I finish up today's show, I do want to mention that anytime there's B-roll running on one of these shows, it is totally free for any content creators to use. I'd love it if you're able to give me credit. Just credit this YouTube channel, Impractically Christopher, but it is available for anybody to use, so feel free to grab it. And thank you for listening. I appreciate it, and we will talk to you next time.